Today on Moviewallas, we talk about Blink Twice, his 3 daughters, and Alien Romulus. Time for Moviewallas. Hi, this is Joe.
Hi, it's Rashmi.
And Yazdi as well.
Moviewallas is your weekly dose of film reviews, movie news, and general banter in theatres, on DVD, online streaming, or on back of airplane. If you love the movies, this show is for you. Happy Labor Day, folks.
Yay! Bonus holiday.
Yes, we are laboring on Labor Day.
Yes, we are.
But it's not labor, it's fun.
In service of you, the listeners. And the watchers on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
All 5 of you.
Hello.
Once again, I'm going to begin the podcast with a plea. If you listen to us, just please go check our YouTube channel, like and subscribe. It would mean the world to us because I'm hopeful that somewhere, somehow, and I've got to figure out how to market YouTube. I've got no idea how to push the buttons and the widgets to get the algorithm going. Well, I think there's lots of stuff I can be doing, but the point is we're making the effort of filming this, ideally to bring more Moviewallas to more people, and you, our captive listeners, could be instrumental in just helping get that word out. So, youtube.com/Moviewallas, or you can go to our website and you can see the YouTube links there. Anyhow, that was my plea.
Very nice.
We have a lot to talk about today. 3 movies, so it's an ambitious podcast.
Yes. Or a long one for a long journey.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah. Keep you company as you drive. Keep your eyes on the road.
Yes.
So I guess we
Netflix picks.
also have time to do it's a holiday.
It's a holiday.
Let's just chat.
I thought you were going to mention something about the delicious banana bread by your side.
You just did.
I did.
Tell
See
us
how I
about
did
it.
that?
Yes.
Yazdi just made.
No, I didn't make. I made it on Tuesday.
I know, but you didn't. I was just going to say Yazdi homemade.
This is a week old.
Yeah, Tuesday.
You gave us week-old banana bread.
It's
I'm kidding.
Good.
Made this delicious vegan banana bread.
Why isn't it dried out? Like
It's
if I made something
delicious.
last Tuesday, this was like this tastes freshly baked.
Very good. It's very, very, very good.
Okay.
Anyway, that's our yummy snack today.
It was delicious. So tell us about
so
this cake.
good.
Yazdi.
So the New York Times has a very good recipe for banana bread, but more recently they've had a 5 out of 5 star vegan recipe, and it doesn't have eggs, it doesn't have milk. It asks you to replace milk with coconut milk, but I don't like the taste of coconut milk, so except in a curry. And since this is not a curry, I did use milk. But other than that, it's very good, and you use half the sugar.
So good.
And it's very good. It's moist. It has a lot of nuts. It has chocolate chips. And
it's like Christmas cake and banana bread all rolled into one.
Yeah, and it
it's delicious.
It has a lot of. It's very rich with spices.
Yeah, you said cloves,
cinnamon, nutmeg, ginger.
Very nice.
Okay, Yazdi, you have to tell me which of these. I'll link it in our podcast because NYT Cooking has a vegan banana bread.
That one.
Vegan
Joe's going to
chocolate
put
chip.
it. So you could be enjoying this podcast with the banana bread
chip.
if you make the recipe.
This one, about 5 out of 5 star one. That one, yes.
The vegan banana chip. Okay, I will put that link in the show notes on our website
Perfect.
and in our YouTube description.
And it takes literally 10 minutes. You put all the dry ingredients together, all the wet ingredients, you mix the wet with the dry and throw it in the oven.
And yes, you're quite a proficient baker, I would say.
I'm okay.
Yeah, you make.
I bake.
Yeah.
I like baking.
Yeah, as does Joe sometimes.
Yes.
I don't mind baking.
Joe makes a good banana bread too.
Yeah.
I've had it.
Yeah.
It's like
it's very
cooking for
good.
cheats.
Yeah, but it's much more than that, I think.
No,
It's very precise.
You measure stuff out, you throw it together.
Love
no
it.
thought. No,
Love cake.
It can be therapeutic, but yeah, I don't. You don't bake because you.
I don't like the discipline
adhere
of it.
To a recipe.
No, I can adhere to a recipe, Joe. I just don't enjoy adhering to a recipe.
You add a pinch
gives
of
me no
this
freedom.
and a touch of that.
Yeah.
You can't do it.
Yeah.
You can't.
No, but
and you know how I know?
she's-
Because when I'm baking something, Rashmi's like looking over the shoulder. Oh, wouldn't it be nice if we had extra walnuts?
Correct.
No, this ratio is there for a reason. I will only put the exact amount.
But she's the only one on this table here who is a proper,
I know, but
proper French cook class completer. Not
Yes.
class, diploma.
Yes.
Yes.
But that's why I can't bake. I am a cook, not a baker.
Okay.
Anyway, Yazdi was delicious.
Thank
very,
you.
very good banana cake. I will happily eat that again.
Cool.
Yes.
I'm glad.
I
Yes.
think it would be good with some frosting at Christmas time. Like it would be great if you did like
Actually-
a peppermint frosting on it or something.
It's like a very it's a very
very
it's like
seasonal.
it's a Christmassy.
Yeah, it's warm. It's lovely.
Lots of spices.
Yeah, I love it.
The other alternation I made is it asked for 2 ripe bananas, but I had 3 overripe bananas, so I put all 3.
You
So maybe
cannot
that
have
helped.
too much
cannot
banana.
I
It's a
loved
banana
it. I
bread.
think that's what. Anyway,
Yeah, maybe.
delicious.
Good call.
Yes.
Okay, so Netflix picks.
Yes.
So our segment, which is I can't find anything to watch on video on demand, and so we do this segment because we often find ourselves in that situation. So we took it upon ourselves to dutifully research movies that you might be able to find on the streaming
Or just things that we
service.
watch in our spare time.
Yes. So who's going
Yazdi.
first?
I can
Yazdi's
go
going
first.
first.
Go
So I'm
for it,
going to
yes.
have a very long introduction.
Uh-oh.
So, as you all know, we do once a month on KPBS NPR, a local radio station. We do a film segment on Midday Edition, and this month the topic was, since August is Trans Awareness Month, we did a whole segment on movies with trans themes to recommend, and I watched a documentary that you had actually, Rashmi, covered, I think, a few months ago.
Yeah,
It's a
probably beginning of the year, I think.
It's a 2024 documentary, and it's called Transition. And I think outside of any political views you may have, I think this is just a fascinating documentary about an Australian journalist who has spent 6, 7, 8 years living in Afghanistan in the early 2010s, filing reports for the New York Times, the New Yorker, many other things, and who realized that they couldn't live another day in the skin that they were in, and they needed to transition from female to male, and took the extraordinary step of deciding to transition, go through gender affirmation treatment and therapy and surgery while they were in Afghanistan and in neighboring Iran. And it has scenes of this individual meeting with, covert doctor in a warehouse or in this abandoned conference room and literally getting injections on a conference room table. And if you think it's scary and traumatic to kind of transition in a progressive nation, imagine how much worse it might be here. But outside of all these political issues, the only reason I'm recommending, well, there's many reasons I'm recommending. The main reason I'm recommending is that this individual is just such good company.
Yeah.
He is happy and he is positive and he is so committed to his photojournalism that he doesn't want to sever the ties he's made with the Taliban, with the people in Afghanistan, and realizes that, if he were to go back to Australia and go through this procedure, that, he's kind of walking away from his calling. So just the fact of somebody, going through this step and at the same time interacting covertly with these Taliban leaders who, if they found out that, he was, had previously been a woman, would be fatal to everybody around them. It's just a fascinating issue.
It's a wonderful documentary. And I think I said that when I did the review. But the thing that I found most fascinating is that he humanized the Taliban, which seems a strange thing to say when you kind of think of them as these monsters who do bad things. But the people he's with, he somehow manages to connect with everyone that he interacts with on a really human level. And that was quite magical, I thought. It was kind of a lesson in life in some ways, right? That even these people who are monsters, supposedly, they have their own journeys that each of them is going through as well.
Yeah. Or people who support monstrous ideologies are otherwise very,
normal.
Very normal.
Yeah.
They're not psychopaths
I
or what
think-
have you. But go on.
I was going to say, I think like so many things in the world, education
Yes.
is the issue. I mean, these aren't human beings like you and I. They just have a particular worldview that's been imbued upon them or been indoctrinated rather into, and so they're not. If they had a broader access to maybe more information, these reasonable people may think differently, but they're fed a worldview and that's the society in which I live. I don't want to necessarily be overly sympathetic to anyone like that, but it's the problem.
Yeah.
And the other thing I wanted to mention is if you are like me and if you have a Amazon Prime subscription and every once in a while, I know, boo. But every once in a while, I'm one of those people who when I order things, I don't need it tomorrow. I can wait for, 3 more days and then get like a $2 or $3 credit for digital stuff. So I just accumulate that credit, and this movie can be watched for $5 on Amazon Prime. So if you're saving up, a few dollars here and there, that's enough to watch. I hope this documentary gets nominated for, best documentary for 2024.
It's really good.
It's certainly worth your time.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind watching another documentary, just hanging out with this individual.
I would love to see when he goes back again. I would love to see a part 2 of this doc. It's often you don't get sequels to documentaries, but I would love to see
I don't
a
know
sequel.
that it would be safe. And that's the one thing I think, I watched this not completely, so I'm kind of stepping back from the review, but I couldn't shake the sense that this was like putting your head in the lion's mouth.
Yeah, it was.
And I as admirable, I think, as his dedication to his craft was, this was folly in many ways to kind of continue down this path. And there's a part of me rather cynically that thinks it was because it would make a good documentary. But I think that's unfair.
Yeah.
I think that's not what was happening here. Just I couldn't shake that that idea that I was like, oh well, you're doing something incredibly perilous here, and I hope it doesn't cost you your life.
Yeah.
But I mean, you could die. This is a very,
and
very dangerous situation.
subsequently, he still could, right? I mean, someone could take offense and say, you've cheated us.
And at least the version I saw, nobody's faces are pixelated. The Taliban, the local people. So I think now that it's out and about, his life is in danger. So I think it'll be very difficult for him to go back.
Do worry for him.
Right. Yeah. Great pick,
Yazdi. Very, very brave filmmaking.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to do a Yazdi. I'm going to cheat a little bit. So that I was going to recommend the movie Skincare, which is the Elizabeth Banks movie about an esthetician who's about to take her career to the next level by launching her very own skincare line. But then something happens that changes the course of that. And it's playing still at the movies. So I was going to recommend that. And I am recommending that. It's a great little thriller.
Horror, isn't it?
Huh?
It's a horror movie, right?
No, it's more thriller than a horror, I would say.
Okay.
Horrific things happen, but it's more of a thriller. And it feels like a kind of old 90s traditional type of thriller.
I like those. I love those.
Really efficient little movie. But then the part of this segment is I can't find anything on video on demand. So then I was like, okay, well then I will recommend something that we're watching currently, which I'm really enjoying. We are halfway through the 8 episode series called The Gentleman, which is a spin-off of the movie from 2019 that Guy Ritchie did called The Gentleman. And it is just a super fun ride is how I would describe it. It was a little difficult to get into initially, but by the end of episode 1, I'm in, and we're halfway through, and I can't wait to watch what happens next. And it is coming out with season 2.
And is this a spy film?
Season 4.
Oh, season 4.
Yeah.
Really? We're 3 behind.
Well,
my goodness.
We have 2 more seasons, and then we'll catch up, and I think season 4 is the one that's coming.
Okay. Well, I got that wrong. But anyway, this is super fun.
It's a spy thing?
No, it's not a spy thing, but it's super fun. It's basically like a heist.
Oh, okay.
Kind of heisty, but not quite heisty. It's just fun. If you like Guy Ritchie, please watch this. It's very Guy Ritchie in its sensibility. It's not always directed by Guy Ritchie, but it's created by Guy Ritchie. And it's definitely based on that world of gangster. It's more gangster in the UK.
And it's contemporary, or it's way back?
Contemporary. It's very contemporary. It's just fun.
Okay.
Yeah. The Gentleman.
So I need to issue 2 corrections.
Oh, really?
No. One correction is, sorry, I was thinking about my recommendation, which is coming up to season 4. Your recommendation is absolutely right. It was coming up to season 2. So, and then the other one.
And what was the other error?
I don't know. It'll come back to me. I did want a second skincare.
Yes.
Your recommendation for skincare.
Yes.
Now, I don't know what's going on with the distribution of this movie because
Yeah.
it is one of the most fun,
Yeah.
compact, enjoyable,
Fun.
precision-made
Yes.
little
Tight.
thrillers. I mean,
It's so tight.
it is wonderfully fun. I mean, it misses a step in terms of it's got a couple of twists in there that I think are signposted a little too obviously.
Yeah.
But for me, it was as much fun as the movie from a few years ago, A Simple Favor.
Yes.
It's a caper, and there's twists, and there's really interesting character. Elizabeth Banks is wonderful.
She's
so
phenomenal.
I do have to kind of just second that to talk it up a bit because it's probably going to be top 10 for me for the year.
I think so too.
And this has been a good year so far.
Yeah.
So I don't say that lightly. I really enjoyed it, and I went there with no expectations.
Yeah.
I didn't know why because I don't think there were any press screenings or coverage, so they haven't done a lot of PR for this movie. It is a delight.
It really is. Yazdi, I want you to go and see it as well.
Yeah,
it's playing one show every day at maybe 3 or 4 cinemas in the city.
And I know it's going to show up at the
digital gym.
You know, I'm just going to get on my soapbox for a minute. The distribution of movies in theaters in the United States
is broken.
Screwed up. It's just
broken.
completely broken.
Yeah.
Crap is showing on 6, 7, 8, 9 screens every 2 hours. And in the meanwhile, really good, worthwhile movies, you know, you have to find that one show during the day that, you know, the theater shows it. And it's, you know, gone are the days when I used to do this. Sorry, I'm just going to say this for 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Gone are the days when you would just show up at the cinema because you had free time and then pick what you wanted to watch. That doesn't happen anymore. We look at the times. There's a specific movie you want to watch, and then there are 3 or 4 or 5 other amazing movies which never get butts and seats. And it just breaks my heart, especially when, you know, studios take a chance and release these smaller movies which have no-name actors. Like the movie we all championed so much, Didi, a month ago is out of cinemas, and it just breaks my heart that people don't have an opportunity to watch this. So anyway, yes, good for skincare. Good for skincare.
Yes, good for skincare.
Good for skincare.
No,
Yes.
it's a great movie. Yeah.
It's really fun.
It's super fun. I mean, it really is a throwback to those tight 90s, you know, thrillers.
It's not a perfect film. It feels very small.
Yeah.
But it's fun. And again, Elizabeth Banks.
She's phenomenal. She's phenomenal in this movie.
So good in it. Because I think, you know, I know this is kind of turning into a mini review, but she is so different from the Elizabeth Banks that we know in other material. And it's not someone who's physically far away from the way that she looks, right? This is somebody who's an esthetician into beauty, but her physicality is remarkably different to anything else that she's done, and I really believed in her.
Yeah. So,
Okay,
Joe, what's your
sorry,
pick?
one more step on my soapbox. It's gotten to a point where the good actors, if they want to get movies made, they themselves are being producers or executive producers.
Yes.
Elizabeth Banks is a producer on this movie. You know, she's put her money where her mouth is because that's what and then we're going to be talking about a movie on our podcast, His 3 Daughters. The actors who play the 3 daughters are all, you know, executive producers on the movie. So I'm glad that the actors are taking that extra step, putting their own money on the line.
I love it.
To get these movies to us.
Yeah. Okay, Joe, what's your recommendation?
You know, I'm still on my boycott of Amazon, so I'm not going to pick anything from that service. I know you do too.
Bad boy Bezos.
But you know what? Life without Prime, it's entirely possible. We've been happy. I've not. I still order stuff from Amazon. It just takes like a week to get there.
Yeah.
So instead of getting my digital credit, which is a refund of the $140 a year that I would otherwise be paying, I pocket the $140 and we use it to rent movies. So that was my soapbox. We're all soapboxy today.
No, I wasn't.
We're all a bit cranky.
Talk for yourselves.
I'm going to switch my pick. We talked about before the podcast, I was going to recommend the wonderful Eras tour.
Are you doing?
By
look, we're all
Taylor
cheating
Swift.
like Yazdi
Except
now.
me.
Yes, you are pure.
I'm the one who's pure of heart today.
Yeah. Yazdi spoke very highly of the Eras tour when he saw it in the movie theaters earlier this year. We all admitted to being closet Swifties, And Rashmi and I watched the TV production of that on Disney Plus. Wonderful.
Great.
It's 3.5 hours
Yes.
long. I mean, the nice thing about at home is that you can break it up.
Yeah.
And I'm a big fan of kind of concert footage anyway. There's I watch a lot of kind of YouTube stuff, Tiny Desk concerts. If you're an NPR fan,
nice.
which is
Yeah,
like
they're
super
very
fun.
cute.
But like this is a live show that actually drew me into the atmosphere of what it would have been like to be there. Obviously,
Yeah.
you can't replace that, but
They did a great job of
really good.
capturing
But-
the audience reaction to her songs. I think that's what helped make this more than
yes.
it not normally what you see. They really do get into the crowd and really. You see a lot of people singing along and crying and
And I don't
loving
think
being
you
there.
have to be a Taylor fan to watch it.
No,
I mean,
I think
her music, no matter what you think of Taylor Swift, I mean, everyone's got an opinion about her. I don't love Taylor Swift, the person. I admire her a lot. I think she's done wonderful things, but the songs are just very catchy. It's very accessible. It's like a Broadway production. At home, you can have subtitles, so you can follow lyrically what she's singing about. And, she's not go ahead.
No, and there have been 100 concert films. I think, regardless of where you stand with her music, I think you need to watch it just for getting a sense of the scope of the ambition of the tour, the scope
Beautiful,
of the
the production,
the theatricality of everything, and just
the stage production.
The stage production. She dives into what looks like this large body of water from one end, and then somehow miraculously comes out within 15 seconds from the other end of like what appears a mile away, and just the logistics of how this has been put together. You just get a sense of how awe-inspiring it is.
The diversity of the dancers.
Right.
They're not all
skinny and
they're all different nationalities and shapes and sizes, which
colours.
are her costume design. Much as I didn't love some of the costumes, but just
But
the
it really
spectacle is beautiful.
It really works.
Yeah,
And,
it did make me want to almost get. I know tickets are. Her shows are nearly over, but it did make me want to consider, I wouldn't mind going to a
we have some
Taylor
good
show.
friends who are flying to New Orleans, I think, to see the tour. And,
and they've already seen it once in LA.
That's right.
So they've seen it in LA, and then they are actually flying to New Orleans to watch it.
I could totally be persuaded to go to a show.
If you could get tickets.
If you had $5,000, yes.
That's a different discussion.
That's another discussion, yeah.
But you know what? Disney Plus.
But that's not your Netflix pick.
$10 a month.
Is that not? But that's not. The Eras Tour is not your
Well, should
VOD.
we leave it there?
Yes, we should leave it
get
there.
on. Okay, I do
Yeah.
have
Let's
another one,
go.
but I'll save that for a future
Okay,
podcast.
save that for next podcast.
You know the one I was going to talk about.
No.
Okay, we'll talk about it later.
Okay.
Surprise. Build anticipation for the
Yes.
next
Oh,
podcast.
what's it going to be?
Bring people back for the sequel. Okay. So let's recap. Our streaming picks today were Yazdi, you had
What did I have?
Transition,
which is available to rent on all major platforms: Amazon Prime, Apple Plus. What do people use nowadays? Flex. You could wherever you rent movies from, it's available for a few bucks.
Okay, mine is The Gentleman, the TV series from 2024 this year, the Guy Ritchie spin-off from the movie on Netflix.
And I strongly recommend the Eras Tour, Taylor Swift's concert movie, available on Disney Plus. All right, 25 minutes.
Wow.
We should probably talk about some
Yeah,
movies.
we should. Yeah.
Well, we talked about movies.
Okay,
So
I'm first.
let's go then with our 3 movies of the week. We have Blink Twice, His 3 Daughters, and Alien Romulus. Let's start.
I'm excited to
with-
speak about all of these,
Me
actually.
too. I've been dying
me
for
too,
so long
me too.
to talk about these.
Okay,
Let's go
Blink
for it.
Twice. So when tech billionaire Slater King meets cocktail waitress Frida at his fundraising gala, he invites her to join him and his friends on a dream vacation on his private island. As strange things start to happen, Frida questions her reality. So this is infamously directed by... directing and writing debut by Zoe Kravitz, also written by Zoe Kravitz and E.T. Feigenbaum. This stars a host of different people, including Naomi Aki, Channing Tatum, Alia Shawkat, Christian Slater, Simon Rex, and a whole bunch of others, including Leavenhawk, the son of Ethan and Uma Thurman. This also has Gina Davis, Carl McLachlan. Great cast. So
Before we get into it,
Yes.
This is one where we have to tread incredibly carefully.
Yes.
One, because the studio asked us to.
Yes.
So, we're going to try really hard to do a spoiler-free review.
Yes.
So I just want to kind of make that point because
Yes.
this is going to be hard. This is a challenging review.
Yes. Okay. Who wants to go first? Yazdi.
I can go first. Yeah.
Yazdi, shall we blink twice?
Yes, blink away.
Okay.
I think this movie enters the genre of films that I didn't know we had. And it is the genre of films where people go to or find themselves in a new place where things initially appear wonderful and then gradually they realize that something is wrong. So I'm thinking like films like Don't Worry, Darling, or Get Out, or The Menu, or Stepford Wives, or even Glass Onion, A Knives Out Mystery. These are all movies where people show up for fun and party someplace. And
Triangle of Sadness.
Triangle of Sadness, where people show up and then eventually they realize, something is not quite. And I have to admit, I like this genre because then you're invested in finding out what is this mystery at play. Like, what is weird about this? What are we going to find out? What exactly is going on here? And I think Blink Twice does a really terrific job, especially with its style and structure and cast, to set up this mystery. So I enjoyed that part of the movie the most. It has, we'll talk more about it, but it has a really sleek, polished look. But I have issues with many, many other pieces, which, again, we have to tread carefully because of the spoilery elements. But I'm surprised this movie is not a huge, big hit. I think it deserves to be. It's so much fun to go watch this at the cinemas.
Joe.
Yeah. Goodness me. This movie's unhinged. And, I mean, it completely shocked me in so many different ways. And I'm not easily shocked, but I think, number one, when the kind of the onion starts to unfurl and you kind of understand what it's about. It's a mystery thriller, build that way. I was amazed at just how far they took the concept. So, to me, it was a bit of a shocker. And I think as I came away, I thought, hey, wow, like it's very surprising material to have been tackled by a female director in particular. But B, props to them for being this brave. I mean, really, this is difficult material to kind of put together in the way that they have under the guise of entertainment. I'll stop there.
Well done, Zoe Kravitz. Bold, brave, challenging, interesting. Entertaining is a strong word given the subject matter, but it is really, really good. And I didn't think it was really, really good as I was watching the first half. I was kind of thinking, what's happening here? I don't quite understand. And then something happens and I just thought, wow, what a brave movie. And then I cannot stop thinking about it. It has been on my mind. Now, it's probably been about 3 weeks since we saw it, and I can't stop thinking about it. Really, really, really good movie. I'm with Yazdi. I don't know why this isn't getting better reviews.
Well,
it's showing at 73% on Rotten Tomatoes, but we'll score it at the end. But I think it deserves higher. But yeah, very good movie. This is great acting, great production. I will say Naomi Aki as the main protagonist, I didn't fall in love with her. I wish she had picked someone else who I could have fallen in love with a little bit more. I think it would have done the story a little bit more service if you could really fall in love with that main protagonist. I was kind of agnostic about that main protagonist. I think that's my only concession. Not my only concession, but, one of the things I didn't quite enjoy watching Naomi Aki on screen.
Yeah, I mean, there are two other movies which I put in my notes, I think, which are in the same genre. Midsommar is another one where people show up this lovely idyllic town and weird things start happening. Ex Machina is similar. I think it works.
Did you already say Get Out?
Yeah, we've already said.
A lot of reviews have mentioned it's like Get Out.
It's got Get Out vibes, is what I would say.
I think it works really well as a bread and butter thriller if you can stomach some of the violence, and it does get pretty violent.
Yeah.
But I also like, and again, I'm going to be careful, but I also like that it's inviting you to talk about a lot of things that the movie comments on, everything from race to privilege to violence to power to feminism to earned versus unearned retribution. There's a lot of things at play.
Yeah.
And we can talk in a minute if we want on the fact that this is written and directed by Zoe Kravitz, who herself comes from a place of tremendous privilege. And, is she kind of telling us something about her world? But I like at the end of the day that it's a pretty angry film. To be very, very honest, I mean, I'm a defender of this movie. When people have asked me in the last few weeks, what should I watch? I tell them, go watch this movie.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. So the mystery of it all, when it unraveled, it's about one thing, and I wanted it to be more complex than that, and I wanted it to be more nuanced. But the one thing it's about is it works because it's something pretty big.
Yeah.
So that's my issue. I have an issue with the ending. I have an issue with some of the other actors, all kinds of stuff. But yeah, I mean, I can talk about this for hours.
And it's hard for us to talk about because we don't want to give any spoilers away, right? So we're trying to be very careful around what we're saying.
Yeah.
I'm amazed you recommend this movie to people because I think it could be traumatic for people. And I think, yes, it's a movie. But when it gets into when it reveals itself, it's a movie that I think could actually traumatize people.
Or it could be triggering, but I think that's how you further the communication.
I understand, but I think if there was more of an inkling about where it's going, and again, that's not to say I didn't like it. I'm just saying I have a hard time recommending it to people. Because to recommend it is to suggest to somebody they might enjoy it, and I worry that somebody might have a problem with it, and I can't alert them to that because I think to do so would be to spoil the movie, and the movie is very effective when you don't know what it becomes. So I don't know. Go.
I mean, I think if you want to remove all the politics and all the commentary, it is at its core kind of a 80s kind of a thriller in terms of revenge and retribution, and so I think if you want to just watch it from a popcorn perspective, it might work, but it could be traumatizing because I don't want to say much. Yeah.
But what I will say is that it's very slick. It's incredibly well put together. The movie is shot really, really deliberately, and Kravitz here is obviously, first time director. I think she's using a lot of tools that maybe she's dreamed about using. This is clearly something that, whenever I think of a first time director, I think of all the notes that they've made across their life and their education in film. And, if I ever got to direct a movie, I would use this shot. I would do that.
This gimmick. Yeah.
And, she's kind of like Monkey Man earlier this year with Dev Patel, where he used every trick in the book to try and kind of say, look, hey, I can do this, I can do that.
Yeah.
This movie doesn't get as carried away as that one, but she's really trying to show that she can build tension. She's trying to show that she can direct various different kind of atmospheres, and the movie does go through a number of different atmospheres, and they all work really well.
Yeah.
I wasn't a huge fan of the lead either, but I think everyone here plays their part with such
conviction.
Yeah, they're really, Channing Tatum here is unlike the Channing Tatum that we know and love,
and is the partner of Zoe Kravitz.
Right. I mean, so again, he's obviously been involved with the project deeply, but he's
Yeah. My only.
when you have
Sorry.
go on,
I was just
please.
going to say, in terms of the filming, the only other thing I had a problem with was there's too much close up. Everything is shot in such close up that I couldn't quite. I wanted to kind of, and I don't know if that's making us as the audience wanting to back away into our chair, but I did feel that sense of like me kind of slumping
Claustrophobia.
further away into my chair because everyone's face was so big on screen and it was so close up. It felt tight. So I don't know if that's intentional.
I think it's very deliberate
okay.
because I think it's intended to build that claustrophobic
Right.
space where you're like, you can't run away from this. You cannot watch this from a distance, like
right.
literally. Yeah, I second what both of you said on the earlier points. Right from the opening frames of this movie, it's very obvious and sometimes overdone, but the visual palette is just gorgeous.
beautiful.
Like,
It
watch
really
this
is.
in the cinema if you can, because the colors just pop. They're all vibrant colors. This island has a very kind of tropical island kind of feeling, and there are these shots of, exotic animals around the island, foliage.
Yeah.
It kind of gives, I'm not giving away anything. It kind of is telling you about this innocence of the Garden of Eden, which
Yes.
quickly degrades into something more akin to, Lord of the Flies.
That's a great analogy, the
yeah, so
Garden
it's-
of Eden. Yes.
Yeah, so it's really like, from a craft perspective, it's very good.
It is.
I also agree that it's kind of, well, maybe I shouldn't call it brave, but it's good for Channing Tatum to take this role, which clearly, to me at least, seemed very Elon Musk-like from the beginning.
Yeah.
And when you have a character like that, you're going to take that character down. So I really like that piece. I think there are some clunky bits with the storytelling.
Yes.
Which, when I think about it more, it doesn't hold together. Like, how come none of these people have any families, who are worried about where these people are, on this island? How come, anyway, there are many little pieces where I'm like, this seems too gimmicky, but I just enjoyed the ride so much. The only other thing I will mention is the movie does something at the end, the last few scenes of the movie, which are meant to be an extra, like, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, like, I did not buy that. It was not consistent with that character. And it kind of almost, the movie is very angry about one thing, and those last few scenes, in an effort to be clever, is almost buying into that thing. So it kind of bothered me. And I know I'm talking in riddles.
Yeah,
But-
yeah.
but I think
if you-
I really liked it.
I think if you watch it,
I really
you
liked it.
I
I
liked
liked
it
it.
in the moment, but afterwards I was a little sickened by
I
it.
actually want to go and see this movie again.
Yeah.
Like, this is actually one, and I think it's coming out on Amazon.
Right.
It's an Amazon MGM Studios. I actually want to watch. I will watch this one again, and I don't often come out thinking I want to see this again, but rather like Sixth Sense, I kind of want to watch this again to see if it gives the clues.
I also want to talk
And I think
about...
that's what works really well, right? It holds, to me, it felt like it held together in the way that it told its story and meandered to the end.
I also want to say this movie has an amazing supporting cast, right?
Yes. It
Christian
really does.
Slater is
Yes.
here. Gina Davis, who we have not seen in a long time, is
Yes.
here. Haley Joel Osment is here. And it kind of does this...
Simon Rex, who I love.
Simon Rex from Red Rocket is here.
Yes.
Alia Shawkat, who plays her best friend. We've
Yes.
seen her forever. She's here. And it does this, this glass onion kind of thing where it brings a lot of very famous actors together, but nobody's safe, right? So I was a little bit angry, not angry, I was a little bit upset because Gina Davis, who I adore, she's become somewhat of a feminist icon in Hollywood, and she's brought here to play a role which ultimately... Anyway, I don't want to say too much. I wish there was more done with her character, but that's part of the whole thing, like, you don't know what's going on, nobody's safe kind of thing.
Yeah.
So at the end of it, I kind of appreciated that. And, good on Zoe Kravitz. I'm actually surprised. This doesn't look like a first-timer movie at all.
At all.
It looks so polished and slick and well-made. I can't wait to see what she does next.
Okay,
This is
that
an
sounds... Yeah, I was going to
this
say,
is
it
an
sounds like a summing up.
easy 8 out of 10 for me. Yeah, I'm eager to watch it again. Maybe I'll watch it when it's released on Amazon. But if you are kind of in two minds whether you should go to the cinemas to see it, do go see it. It gets very dark towards the end, but it's a great, great ride. And it's very satisfying to see the retribution aspect of the movie. I'll
Joe.
leave it at that.
Yeah, I had a really hard time processing this in the moment, and I'll be honest. I mean, it took me a couple of days to kind of land on where I am right now, which is, I think the movie is very well accomplished, but it kind of upset me, and from a kind of a, how do I describe this? I found it ultimately kind of distasteful and nauseous. It really did.
It worked.
But that's how it worked. Yeah, it's
No, I
effective,
mean, yeah, I know,
Yeah.
but I mean, I should also recognize it for the art, but I feel like it pushed the button a little too far, so that I'm left with discomfort rather than admiration. And look, I mean, yes, everything here is very accomplished. None of that is to say don't see this movie, but be really careful. It's a 7 out of 10. Which, I'm being generous here because I think it was really, really quite something, but I'm ultimately disturbed by it.
Disturbed also, but don't blink. Go run and watch this movie. Easily an 8 out of 10 from me.
Okay.
Yeah, I think this is one of my favorite movies of the year so far. And again, while I was watching this, I did not think I would say that. But I cannot get this one out of my mind. And well done, Zoe Kravitz.
Well done. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's some, to give credit where it's due, since she wrote the script. Sorry, I'm adding more. There are some lines in the movie which are so good.
So bitey. So bitey. Yeah.
There's one which says, and I wrote this down, there's a real special place for those who choose to do nothing.
Yes.
Where if you are seeing something bad happening and you're not doing something, then, shame on you. There's another one which simply is like, believe women, right? Again, I don't want to get, and then another one which is like, forgetting is a gift.
Yes.
That they say in the movie, which again is so true. If you can just forget about, weird things which are happening around here or wrong things which are happening, it's a gift, because if you see something bad, you need to react to it. The only other last thing I would say about this movie is I really hate the poster for this movie. This is such a beautiful, vibrant movie about all these actors, and instead the movie is of one half of Channing Tatum's face taking a Polaroid. It undersells the movie, is my concern. But I know Channing Tatum is the biggest name actor and they want to put his face front and center. But I think,
but it also doesn't give you anything, doesn't give anything away.
But it makes it seem like a B grade movie, which it's not.
But it's also a horrific picture once you understand what the movie's about. I mean, I look at that now and I'm taken right back to that place of discomfort.
Yeah.
So,
I just looked at it as well.
Take a look at it. I'll put the thumbnail on the website. Let us know what you think. Okay, moving on then. Movie 2 of this week is His Three Daughters. So, Yazdi, I think you're going to tell us about His Three Daughters?
Yeah, so His Three Daughters is written and directed by this filmmaker that I wasn't aware of, but apparently he's made, lots of movies. He made a movie called Exit. He made a movie called The Lovers. He made a movie with Michelle Pfeiffer a while back. And he's made 3 or 4 movies, working very prolifically, I think, in small cinema and making these movies. This is the latest, which is written and directed by him. His name is Azazel Jacobs, and His Three Daughters is being released by A24, which to me is always a sign that just close your eyes and go see the movie. And it's a very talky movie about 3 daughters. And this is the one-liner from IMDb, which is that this is a funny portrait of family dynamics which follows the 3 estranged daughters as they converge in a New York apartment to care for their ailing father, while at the same time trying to mend their own broken relationship with one another. The 3 daughters are played by what I believe are, underrated actresses, all 3 of them. Natasha Lyonne, whom you may know from Russian Doll and from Poker Face.
Orange is the New Black.
And Orange is the New Black. Elizabeth Olsen, who you may famously know from the Marvel movies, but has been in so many other good movies. And Carrie Coon, who has been on The Leftovers and who was on
The Gilded Age.
The Gilded Age. So those are the 3 main actors. And I think they pretty much take up, 95% of the screen time in this movie. Very Woody Allenish in some ways. But let's talk about it. What do you guys think of His Three Daughters?
I love this movie. I am one of 3 daughters, and I've lost my parents. And this just reminded me of the ludicrousness of death when people are in pain, and how people behave and what it brings out. And death of a loved one brings out the best and worst in people. And this is so beautifully done and so well acted. I'm in love with this movie. I want everyone to go and watch this.
Wow. You know, I find myself wanting to feel more from this movie, and maybe it's because, I didn't quite relate to the 3 characters and who they'll come from. Look, I mean, it's a very compact little world that they create here. It's all
It could be a stage play
within an apartment.
Yeah.
I think it very much was written like a play. These characters kind of slowly reveal who they are, and we get to understand the different relationship they had with each other, they had with their dying father, and so on and so forth. The only thing is, I was waiting for the gut punch, and it didn't arrive. And this is a kind of material that I think ultimately, like a movie like Amour from a few years ago, that should leave me kind of devastated with emotion at the end of it, and it didn't kind of come. So I found myself oddly at a distance with these 3 characters, none of whom I found particularly sympathetic. And ultimately the way that it played out. So, maybe that's just, it's, this isn't my flavor of movie, and I'll have to be honest about that. But again, in terms of performances, my God, all 3, I mean, the best female actor nomination has got
just
3
written itself.
Names on here that I think are going to be pretty hard to beat. These performances were wonderful.
Yazdi, be the tiebreaker.
Yeah, I love this film as well. It's my kind of movie. I think it's, if you enjoy like a chamber piece where people are just, opening their hearts off, and people have these, raw scars from past relationships, which all come to the fore. And like I don't have 3 siblings. I'm not one of 3 siblings. I'm only part of 2 siblings. But I think anybody who is at a certain part of their life is dealing with aging parents, who can get very sick, and you are responsible for making medical decisions about them. And that invariably results in one person doing more than the other. And there is all this bitterness and all this, well, you were not there for this, and I was there for this, and how dare you say this? So I think, these kind of relationships bring out, like you exactly said, the worst and the best in this. And this movie is, it's pretty clever, and it's pretty sophisticated in how it's structured, so it doesn't fall in the tropes of, 3 sisters fighting with each other. We've seen hundreds of those. All 3 of these characters, I agree, none of them are sympathetic, but they are complex, and they are contradictory, and they are frustrating and exasperating, i.e. they're human. I think we are all like this. Maybe not to this extreme, but there's a little bit of that. None of us is, purely angelic or purely evil. These are all people who can't help be themselves, who they are. And that's what real life is. I cannot help being who I am. My sister cannot help being who she is. And therein is, lies all the stress and the trauma of dealing with somebody who unfortunately is maybe nearing the end of their life and who is very close to you. So it really resonated for me, because maybe I'm of that particular age. So if you don't like a movie where for 90 minutes, 3 people are just talking with each other, this is not the movie for you. But if this is the movie which, if you like Woody Allen movies, if you like the kind of stuff where people are just kind of opening themselves up for the good or the worse, then this is pretty clever.
Yeah.
I know what you mean, Joe. Sorry, I'll let you talk. I know what you mean by you were waiting for the gut punch. I think that gut punch does come, but it's edited so quickly. And I wish it had kind of dwelled on it a little bit longer, because it literally, it happens within
30 seconds.
Within 30 seconds. And I wish it had lingered on it, because the gut punch is there, but the way it's been edited, the next thing happens so quickly that you don't have a chance to let it fully settle in.
But I think that's the genius of the movie, that it's not tonally like a was it Amour? The movie
Amour,
about
yeah.
with the couple,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
The
yeah.
one. I love that it's not a sucker punch. I love that it's almost humorous. It's
Yeah.
like I found myself laughing out loud because, again, it's like I said at the beginning, it's about the ludicrousness of the situation and what it brings out in people. And when you take a step back from the sad situation that you're in, it's really it kind of gives you the permission to laugh at the sad situation. And so and all of the three characters are so well realized, a little exaggerated. I think you said that just now, Joe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're a little exaggerated, but each one of those performances, my God, I mean, Elizabeth Olsen blew me away. Carrie Coon, who I love in
Gilded
A Gilded Age, blew me away. I've always known that Natasha Leon is a fantastic actress. It was very good. I mean, just everything was just so tight, and it's efficient. It's about an hour and 40 minutes, and it's very, very efficient. I run out and see this. If you like independent, small, quiet, focused movies, it doesn't get better than this. And even the small supporting cast, those characters add so much life to this situation of death, which I really loved.
Yeah, and we don't see too many movies discussing this particular aspect without getting maudlin. So there's a lot of
Yeah.
discussion about, when somebody is in
DNR.
hospice or in DNR.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I went through this with my
I
parents.
mean, it starts with that, right? It starts with
yeah.
the discussion of, okay, when he dies, what are
Right.
we going to do, right?
Right.
That it kind of starts with the premise.
Right.
Yeah, sorry, Yazdi.
No. But usually that's we see that in media, in movies and books as being very, very deeply sad and deeply depressing. But in this movie, there is a lot of humor to it as well.
Yeah.
And so I kind of appreciate, and right to the very last frame of the movie, which is quite funny. I agree with you. Some of it is exaggerated, like the Natasha Leon character is
Yeah.
always smoking pot. I
Yeah.
don't know, maybe I haven't interacted with her. I don't know somebody who is any given time that the camera is on her, she's smoking pot.
It's almost a gimmick.
It's almost
Yeah.
a gimmick. Likewise, the Carrie Coon character, after a certain point, she always has a wine glass in her hand. Like, I know she's kind of a, unadmitted alcoholic, but it's really overdone. I think there's little pieces there.
I didn't actually notice that, Yazdi.
You did not?
No, I didn't notice the wine glass.
She's always
did.
after a certain
But
point.
she's a certain type of person. Like, she's a Brooklynite.
Right.
Right? I mean, this is set in Manhattan. And sorry, I interrupt. I was just going to say, the other thing I love about this movie is it's set in Manhattan, but it's set in a community that's very normal, right? It's not about a shishi family. This is
Right.
about a working class family, a working class father who had a working class job. It's very clever in the way that it's done, and then how the siblings are represented, this notion of, generational journeys that happen from working class parents, the struggles that brings between the siblings. I just fell in love with this movie.
This movie could have been only about one thing, and it's about many things. But the one thing it is about is when there are several siblings and somebody has to take care of an old one who is old and dying, who is doing more. That thing keeps coming up in every family. Like, well, I showed up for this. Well, and it just really did this in such a nice way.
So well.
There's a weird cadence to the movie. Like, the scenes, right from the very first scenes just start with somebody talking.
Yes.
Right? And they abruptly end, and it's the next scene where somebody else is
Yes.
talking. So it took me a while to get used to that kind of flow of it. But once I was in it, I was really in it. And I think, if nothing else, like you said, Joe, in an ideal world, there are, I don't know, hundreds of amazing actors who never get the big parts, who are doing little work in television or what have you. And in their own right, they've been working for decades, and they all deserve Oscars in a world of justice. But I love that, at least this film is giving these three very accomplished actors an opportunity to shine. And I would co-write, Oscar nominations for all three of them. And like you, of course we expect Natasha Lyonne to be amazing. Of course we expect Carrie Coon to be amazing. But it's Elizabeth Olsen, who the first time I saw her on a big screen was in this independent movie called Martha, Marcy, May, Marlene, which just drew
yes.
broke my-
Fantastic
But
movie.
this is, and she's been stuck in this Marvel universe for like, I don't know, the last 10, 15 years. But outside of that, she's a remarkable actress.
Fantastic.
She was the one who amazed me the most. And I think we can talk about her character as well, but it's done marvelously. I love this movie. It's an 8 out of 10.
From Marvel to Marvelous.
From Marvel to Marvelous. It's a clear 8 out of 10.
That's Elizabeth Olsen.
This is true. Yes. 8 out of 10. I'm just so happy these actors get to shine. It's a movie with a lot of sadness, but it's also a movie with a lot of humor. And I think almost everybody will identify a little bit with it. Yeah, 8 out of 10. Clear.
Okay, Joe.
Yeah.
For all the reasons you connected with it, I failed to connect. And I think ultimately I found myself just watching it from a distance and admiring the performances and admiring the structure, but never really truly feeling any of it. And I think, that's a shame. I think maybe it's more a reflection on me.
Totally.
And my...
I'm joking.
No, but
I mean, that's why we need Joe in the Moviewallas, right? Because he...
it didn't work for me. So, I would give it a 6, but I think that's too stingy. The performances alone raise that to a 7. And I mean, really, it's quite something to watch all these actors doing some exceptional work here. I mean, it really is. It's quite, like it does feel like a play. I think Rashmi, you said it feels like a play, or maybe yes, you said it, but it really does feel, like if I'd seen this in La Jolla Playhouse,
yes,
or the Old Globe or something like that, where this material I think would really shine, then I think it would have worked a little better for me.
What was your score?
I landed on a 7.
Okay, you landed on a 7. 9 out of 10 for me. This is phenomenal movie making. This is incredible acting. It's so tight. It's fresh. It's a really funny movie. I'll say it again. It's a funny movie about a sad situation. And it just totally worked for me. 9 out of 10.
Yeah. Two things I want to say. One is a correction. This is not an A24 movie. This is a Netflix movie. So Netflix is releasing it in the cinemas. I think it opens next week. If it matters at all to you, there are 29 reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. They're all positive. This movie's running at 100% right now on Rotten Tomatoes. Maybe that'll change once it gets more reviews in. And 2 other things. One is because it's a Netflix release, I think it's in cinemas for a month and then it'll arrive on Netflix.
Perfect.
So you should watch it on Netflix when it opens.
Yes.
I think it opens sometime in early October at Netflix. So
well, one of us will try to remember to make it a recommendation.
And then the only other thing I want to say is, since we're talking about movie posters in this podcast, and before we watched the movie, this poster was on the screen. And it's of this embrace between the 3 daughters. They're all kind of clinging onto each other. And while I was watching the movie, I'm like, all 3 of them hate each other's guts so much. They're biting each other. They're snapping at each other. I can't even imagine the 3 of them being in an embrace until when it happens with a little bit of a trick, it does happen. So I was kind of interested how the movie kind of did that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
The big movie of the week.
Which is Alien Romulus. So, I guess I'll say a few words about that. I'm not going to give it a formal introduction. I think if you're a fan of Moviewallas, you will know the Alien universe incredibly well. This began in the 70s, I believe, with Ridley Scott's original Alien, moved through James Cameron with Aliens, and then various other sequels and spin-offs. So I think we ended up with about 4 or so of the original franchise. Then we ended up with the Prometheus universe, which is followed by Alien Covenant, which unfortunately flopped critically and commercially. So we didn't really get to see the Prometheus saga play out fully. We were left kind of hanging, I guess, at the end of Alien Covenant. This movie, Alien Romulus, so this is kind of a spin-off. It is not a direct continuation of any of the characters from the earlier franchises, but it is definitely well within the Alien universe that we all know and love. It comes to us from director Fede Alvarez. Fede Alvarez, who you know best on Moviewallas for the movie that we covered a long time ago, which was the remake of The Evil Dead in 2013. So maybe that's a little bit of a clue as to the tone of this movie. Fede Alvarez has a very accomplished horror background. He did a wonderful remake of The Evil Dead, which was so much fun. I think we were at South by Southwest that year.
I was just thinking that, yeah.
And he really brought the energy and the fun to that franchise. Let's find out what he... Oh, and the basic premise here is, while scavenging the deep ends of a derelict space station, a group of young space colonists come face to face with the most terrifying life form in the universe. Tell me what you thought of Alien Romulus.
Okay, so I think I am the only non-mega fan of the Alien universe. I just never got into it when I was younger, and I'll watch the movies. I didn't love Prometheus. I hated the second one. But I have to say, I love this movie. I really, really enjoyed this. And I think it's because it's bringing the franchise in a refreshed way to a new generation that didn't, grow up like you both love Alien. I really, really, really enjoyed the tightness and the claustrophobia. And Kaylee Spaney, we're talking about great performances. Kaylee Spaney blew me away.
Well, we last saw her as Priscilla.
Priscilla, yeah.
No. We last saw her in Civil War.
We didn't watch Civil War yet. Yeah, we haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
She's a great actress, so I love the energy that she brings. Few concessions that we can talk about that I didn't love about the movie, but yeah, I really enjoyed this. It doesn't really bring anything new to the genre. It's kind of like, what do you call it? Like a what's the genre? It's
reimagining. Oh, it's like
it's
horror,
kind of like
sci-fi.
sci-fi. Yeah, but you're in a tight space.
Thriller, claustrophobia.
Claustrophobia, yeah. But overall, love this. And Fede Alvarez, you know what you're getting with him.
Yeah. So it's dangerous to put a mic in front of me to talk about the Alien movies because, like you, I just pray at the Church of Alien.
Like you, Joe, you're saying.
Yeah, Joe. It would be the original, and by the way, that was 1979, more than 50 years ago.
Gosh.
Wow.
When the first Alien movie came out. I'm not a horror person, but
No.
I think the original Ridley Scott 1979 Alien is as close to a perfect film as you can get. And that's saying a lot. I don't hand out tens. I don't, but just watch that movie. It's a masterclass in tight claustrophobia, in kind of not showing the bad guy until the very end, of very quickly getting to understanding characters, all of this stuff. And I think Fede, this franchise has been redone over the last 50 years. They've tried different iterations of different things, so it's very hard to bring something new to it. And I think what Fede Alvarez does is he does an homage to the first two movies. You will see, like, shamelessly, he's recreated or recontextualized direct things from the original Alien movie, as well as the James Cameron Aliens movie. And so I kind of feel like I need to defend this movie. I kind of feel very protective about it because I think people complain. Listen, you can't have it both ways. People complain that this particular movie it's just a retread of Alien, and he's just kind of just putting new actors and just remaking Alien. But you can't have it both ways. When you make something like supremely ambitious and intelligent and out there like Prometheus, people don't like that either. I love Prometheus. So, Ridley Scott himself tried to further that whole Alien franchise in a very inventive, ambitious new direction with Prometheus. And cerebral, right? Very, very meditative kind of. So you don't like that either. And at the same time, when somebody's doing really good fan service, you don't like that either. Then what do you like? You can't have it both ways.
It's a good point.
Yes, this movie is not perfect, but I think the production design, the claustrophobia. There was a point where I wrote in my notes, I don't want this to end because I was so terrified of these people trapped in a small place, small space. And I think this movie, the person who steals this movie is Johnson. What's his name? David Johnson, who plays
synthetic.
the synthetic, he is so good in this movie. I mean, for me, he was an order of magnitude higher than Kaylee Spaney even, because the way the plot kind of deals with this, the production design is great. Great action set pieces, very clever in terms of, they're putting things together. So I'm sorry, I need to say a lot about this. Yeah, I love this movie. I'm just, give this person his flowers.
He was actually in that film Rye Lane that you and I both loved.
Yes.
He's there's something very appealing about his face.
Yes.
And again, it kind of crosses that whole race issue, synthetic versus not. It's got some deep, meaningful guts in there, as well as this, what it mainly is doing, which is like, horror.
Yeah, I don't think it's a coincidence that this actor is black.
Correct.
I think there's some commentary about race and master versus follower, human versus android. There's all this stuff built in. It's not by chance.
Yes. Joe, as another Alien fan.
Yeah, I mean, this movie, has it all the cliches, right? Badass alien space monster jump scares, check.
Seven of them.
Evil corporation, check. AI intelligence going wrong, check. Space, guns, check. There is a lot of fan service in this movie.
Yeah.
Like the very opening scene as they're drifting through some space wreckage, you see the logo of the Nostromo come along, which was the original ship that Ripley was on in the very first Alien. It's been made with an awful lot of love for the franchise. It's been made with an awful lot of callbacks and Easter eggs for those of us who have followed this franchise over the years. And I loved the hell out of it. It was, the only thing that was missing for me, I really wanted the motion trackers. In Aliens, there is these little devices which can spot where motion is, but you can't
you can see on your watch. Yeah.
They have these. I was really waiting for those because that's one of the greatest kind of tension builders in the Alien universe. But I mean, that was literally the only thing missing. We had face huggers, check. We had chest bursters, check. We had the big monster with the extra set of teeth inside. Check.
Jaws within Jaws.
We had the get away from her, you bitch line. Check. We had, the blowing things out of space into this vacuum of space.
The droids.
I mean, it was there for us that love. You said it very well, Yazdi, the first two movies, because those are the movies that really catapulted this particular franchise to the top and deep into my heart. It's lost its way in other places, but yeah, this was really, really so much fun.
Yeah.
It's not, I think you could argue that there's a little bit of opportunity left on the table in terms of being a bit more clever and cerebral. But I did like that it closed the loop on some of the things that were left hanging from the Prometheus universe. Because again, Prometheus was trying to go into the history of, where did they come from and how were they? And this primordial, goo that led to this kind of ultimate parasite. And, it gave me a couple of little Easter eggs there that was like, okay, I'm okay. I'm okay with not having a third Prometheus now. I'm never going to have it. I know that. So yeah, this was really, really good stuff.
Yeah. So here are the concessions, Joe. You just mentioned it. I didn't like the jump scares, right? Jump scares are cheap. And there are 7. I mean, I was like literally jumping out of my seat 7 times, which I didn't like. And I don't think I got all of them. And then the other thing I didn't like, yes, you always say this, I didn't know
who was doing what to whom.
I didn't really think, that one didn't bother me, but it's like, I didn't understand the geography of the ship. I didn't understand how big the ship is, where we are in the ship, what the geography of the world was. So I feel like that was a little bit missing for me. And that would have brought me more into the world if I knew where we were. Like it would have added tension, but I just didn't know where we were ever. And I was bothered by the I think his name is Spike Fern, who kind of plays one of the sub characters. Yeah. It was a very British accent, and I was like, how are they going? Like, how is anyone who's not a Brit understanding what these people are saying? Because it was so colloquial that I was kind of a bit put off by that. And we're British, right? We understand some of the...
We used to be.
We used to be, yeah. We
used to speak British.
We used to speak English, yeah. So that was some concessions there. But I thought that even despite the fact, Joe and I knew you were having a really good time, even though it was a lot of fan service, it did feel a little inventive. It felt like there are some things we saw that we haven't seen in these type of space journey movies before. So I like that. I like it. And again, Kaylee Spaney blew me away. She's really a very human actor. She brings in that human element of being scared, being brave, being anxious, caring for something. I really like this movie. I'm shocked by how much I like it.
Yeah, I could talk about this for an hour, but I'll address some of the few things. I agree. It was so the movie starts on this
Depressing planet.
on this depressing planet where people are just being used
Like a coal mining. It's almost like a coal mine.
town,
Yeah.
and this
But it's
ragtag
almost
group,
like a penal colony.
Yeah.
like a penal colony is this.
Yeah.
And people are trying to, it starts with this group of ragtag people saying, let's abduct the ship and, get away from here. And it's very weird to me that many of them had very, very strong British accents. Like, even if they're staying on this other planet, you would think over generations some of that accent would be gone. So that was weird. I'm going to say something which, don't come at me, but I actually thought I love Kaylee Spaney, but I actually thought she was not right for this role.
Oh,
She's
really?
very human. She's very human. But again, who is the model here? The model is Ellen Ripley, who was played very famously by
Sigourney Weaver, yeah.
who is so angry, and she's had it over here, not just with the aliens, but the corporations which are trying to, commercialize the alien. And she's angry, and Kaylee Spaney cannot help but be very human. And she has a very agreeable, likable presence. So when she says, "Get off from you, bitch," it didn't feel like she was truly angry. So I almost felt like a Charlize Theron would have just like kicked this out of the gear. But maybe that would have been too much like Ellen Ripley. I don't know.
Yeah,
I think
almost...
you like your female protagonist to be angry. 'Cause
I do.
I remember you felt the same way about
Anya Taylor-Joy in Furiosa.
Yeah, it's
Yes,
true.
Yeah.
I think that you had to go the other way.
Right, maybe, yeah.
Like, again, if you had put like a Charlize Theron in there, people would have said, "Oh, that's just like having another Ripley." So I
Right.
think they had to make a decision to play it almost completely opposite
Yeah, fair.
to give this new life.
Yeah, New Blood, yeah.
Yeah.
I really like the ragtag group of, these people. It kind of recreates Alien and Aliens. And I almost started working in my mind, like, who's going to die first? Right?
Yes.
Who's going to be the first
Or
one
who
to
do
go?
you want to die
Who
first?
do you want to die?
Yeah.
And I also love the fact that, all the guys are really stupid and they're doing dumb things, and the females have to come and save their asses again and again and again.
Yes.
So it's kind of playing into that
A lot of girl power in the three movies that we've reviewed today.
Yeah.
Love them.
Both James Cameron as well as Ridley Scott obviously were very proto-feminist in both of their movies, in terms of ultimately you need the female to save humanity, kind of. So he kind of recreates that. In terms, a lot of people think, oh, it's repetitive, there's nothing new, but I would kind of argue with that, because there's at least two different things in the movie. I'm not giving anything away, or maybe I am. There's one piece where, because this spaceship is like old and clunky and it's, in space, and there's no gravity there. So there are these gravity generators. And in this movie,
Love that.
yeah, the gravity generators,
I love it.
Kind of don't
a good device.
Don't work at certain times, and they all go flying because the gravity doesn't work. And it uses that so cleverly at a few places. And then there's linked to that, there's another piece where, I want to say this very carefully, where there is alien goo, which is just acid, which is on the floor. And when the gravity goes off, that alien goo goes flying.
Yes.
And they have to play this kind of dodge game.
Almost like a laser, when you, like in those
it's very
kind of...
video game-like.
Yeah, heist. Yes, I had that in my notes. Felt very like a video game.
So that to me was really very clever, that piece. The piece I did not like about the movie is...
The jump scares.
I don't mind the jump scares. Those were fun. And there were maybe too many. But the one I didn't like, and actually the guys at the Pop Culture Happy Hour podcast on NPR mentioned this. When you have one alien, it's really scary. When you have two, it gets claustrophobic. But when you have 32, it's a lobster tank, right? At some point, there were like 100 aliens. It's like, now you've just made them like flies or gnats. And it kind of takes away from the single-minded evilness of the aliens, because then it's just like things you're shooting at in a video game. So I wish they had not had like 100 of them.
I mean, Aliens handled that really well because, we had the section where there were an impossible wave after wave after wave of these things. But the finale is all one-on-one. And, that's what made that movie so iconic, because it was two alpha females at it in a claustrophobic space. And I don't think we got that super satisfying ending here of strength of the one-on-one. I mean, I think it did kind of go there, but but I agree with you. I mean, I think less is more when it comes to building the tension. Otherwise, these are just generic monsters, whereas the truly terrifying nature of the alien comes through in the first movie. It's one of these things, and it's hunting, and you are you are basically its prey, and trying to survive against overwhelming odds. And here, again, there were a lot of little plot devices. I love the fact that they couldn't just go guns blazing in a lot of the movie. It
almost had some reminiscence of A Quiet Place. There's a point in time where you can't make any noise. That was kind of borrowed, I think, a little bit.
So
I mean, the thing I was going to say,
Quiet Place,
was borrowed from the original. Exactly.
That's right.
So look, I'll say it's got an hour and 59-minute running time. It's a 2-hour movie. I never ever looked at my watch once. It's so entertaining and engaging, and it's incessant. The energy remains at 150% the entire running time. Right? It never loses energy. You never feel bored. You're never waiting for it to finish, to your point, Yazdi. And again, I'm not the super fan here.
I've read some comments from people, and presumably these are, I'll be very careful, these are younger people who haven't watched the earlier Alien movies, but they were so annoyed. They're like, what's going on? Nothing happens in the first 45 minutes, which is true. You don't see the first Alien until 45 minutes into the movie. But what the movie is doing so effectively, it's developing the characters, and it's building this dread, and it's building this claustrophobia. And if you see the alien in the first 5 minutes, then it just becomes a video game, the whole movie. So I think it's very clever. It's very deliberate. There's also complaints I've seen of the fact that Ian Holm in the 1979 film played the android, and he's kind of rebrought into this movie.
Yeah.
Ian Holm has been dead for decades, and they used AI to kind of regenerate him.
I didn't know that.
He looked familiar. I went back and looked afterwards.
I didn't know that.
But it's done so well. It looks like a real actor, and I think it's wonderfully done. That if this is a good use of AI, if you can go back and recreate a character who has since passed, an actor who has since passed, for a really good plot element, then all power
it's
to
great.
them. Actually,
yeah. Interestingly, there's a bill right now in California trying to stop that.
Right.
Of course.
But nonetheless, I mean, I think if it's in service of the franchise and they can work out some sort of royalty arrangements for that, then I agree. I mean, this was a really great callback to the original movie.
All right, let's wind this one up, because I think we've been going for about 2 hours.
Yeah, it's almost the running time of the movie.
Podcast. Okay. So I can start. As the non-Alien fan, I have become a fan of this new franchise. I cannot wait to see a sequel. I think it's set up for a sequel. Easily 8 out of 10. Almost a 9.
Yeah, for me, it's an 8.5 out of 10, and I'll see how it kind of settles in my head. Marinates as the months go on, but I could go either. Are you
going to back up or back it?
I'm going to back down to an 8, but I could easily go to a 9 if I watch this again. I do want to watch it in the theater. By the way, we watched it on an IMAX screen or a Limax with loud noise.
Oh, so good.
This movie, please, is not to be seen on any kind of screen in your home. I don't care if you live in a palace or whatever. This needs to be seen because it's
if you live in a palace, invite us.
Yeah, but it's a marvel of production design. It's a marvel of good sound design.
Yeah.
And there's a whole piece in the movie about them having to go through, make passage through a part of the ship where there are all these aliens, and their body temperature has to be kept as the same as the aliens, otherwise they will recognize them. It's so clever. It's these
very clever.
You need to watch it on a big screen. This movie, I think, I thought it would be impossible to do this, but I think this movie does the first two, seminal alien movies, Alien and Aliens. It does it proud. Good on you, Fede Alvarez. Good on Ridley Scott to kind of hand over his baby of the last 50 years to someone else and say, okay, I'm trusting you to do something clever and smart with it, which they do. It's not a perfect film, but I love it.
Yes. Joe, as the other super fan.
No, this movie is made with love, and it's made for people like me who really hold that franchise in high esteem. Is it perfect? No, I think its plot is a little clunky in places, and I think it gets a little easy to kind of understand who's going to get picked off one by one.
People do stupid things, yes.
Yeah, the tension isn't quite there in terms of people being safe, because you kind of know, he's a goner.
But then there's a jump.
No,
to make up for it, which I think is good.
The jumps are one thing, but like what makes the original Alien so frightening is the way that they're kind of picked off one by one, right? And they're not all, there's moments where you think someone's going to get it and they don't. There's moments when you think someone's, in peril or the other way around. But anyway, it's really fun. I'm sitting at around an 8, but I'm going to give it a 9 just because you two didn't. And I think it deserves at least a 9 from one of us.
Yeah, I think so.
So
I think
that's the only reason.
No, I think you're right.
But it's also because of the movies we've seen this year, right? This is one that's a definite purchase for me, right? The other movie I bought this year is Furiosa. This one is the kind of movie that I can watch over and over again because it's just so much fun. So yeah, 9.
The only other comment I want to make is if I hope you go to see this in the cinemas. Please, you need to support good, smart, clever movies. But I hope you go to watch it in the cinema. And if you watch it in the cinema, when the movie ends, you will see the credits. And all the credits are from, what looks like South American, Eastern European people. And it turned out afterwards, Fede Alvarez is from South America. He's Uruguayan. And I love the fact that Hollywood has kind of, they asked Fede Alvarez to make this movie, and he has used local talent from South America in all the craft spaces, be it in, production design or animation or use of, CGI or what have you. So I like the idea that this whole army of people from South America have worked on this movie when those jobs would have gone to people in Hollywood. I don't want the people in Hollywood to die of hunger, but I think it's really nice that it's kind of almost bumping up local economies from the part of the world where this filmmaker is from. So good on them.
Yeah.
So you're supporting offshoring, Yazdi?
I'm supporting offshoring when the creator is from offshore.
I'm kidding.
Yes.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no, that's an interesting point. I didn't know. I didn't actually notice that. That's pretty cool. All right. Well, we're completely safe from aliens in this environment, thanks to Miss Sawyer, who has been.
She's been farting, which is very unlike my dog, but I think she needs a walk and a poop.
She does. Bless her. The Moviewallas dog.
TMI.
Keeping us safe from aliens everywhere. All right. Let's end the podcast. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Hope you enjoyed our coverage of these movies. Do subscribe
really
to us
good
on
movies.
YouTube.
I mean, the
All
season,
3.
as we always say, season is upon us.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's again, we've had a couple of good podcasts in a row now where we've seen truly exceptional films. And it's been a good year so far. I mean,
Venice
honestly,
Film Festival is ongoing as we speak.
and
So let's see
Toronto
what
is
comes
coming.
out.
Yeah, Toronto Film Festival is starting very soon next week. And so, the official, kickoff of
Award season.
Award season starts. And at our next podcast, we can talk about movies which have been kind of grabbing the spotlight at Venice
let's do that.
and Toronto and elsewhere. Yeah.
All right. Thank you again for listening. Twitter.com/Moot. No, we're not on X anymore. No,
not really.
To hell with Mr. Musk and his nonsense platform.
Yes.
We boycott.
Yes.
But we are on Instagram. We are on YouTube. We are on Facebook. So please check us out there if you haven't already. And thank you for listening. We'll be back again with a podcast in a couple of weeks' time.
Yes.
Until then, too many movies, too little time. A goodbye from me.
And me.
And me as well.